read your bio. Let me get my bio life together. Dr. Clarissa Francis, she, her Serenity Doctor, known as the Real Hot Girl Doc, is a distinguished leader in the Black sexuality, education, and reproductive justice. With a strong academic background in critical race, gender, and sexuality studies, she advocates for Black women's sexual liberation through the hot girl movement. Beyond academia, she offers expertise in massage therapy, Reiki, conscious and erotic touch. Dr. Francis collaborates with colleges, organizations, and community leaders, focusing on awareness and healing among college students, Black women, and youth. In 2022, she published her memoir, Freak Like Me. You're going to want to look and see the cover, okay? You're going to want to go and check that out. And launched an apparel line promoting the movement's core values. She currently serves on the WOCSHN Leadership Collective and the AASECT Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, offering speaking engagements, writing, and training on Black sexuality, reproductive justice, and peer education. Dr. Francis aims to dismantle oppressive systems, creating safe spaces for Black women's healing and empowerment. She looks forward to future collaborations and advocacy initiatives. Yes. So, on that note, we all clap, clap, snap, snap. Welcome.
Thank
Yes,
you. I'm happy
hearts.
to be here. It's an honor to be in this space with everyone. This is beautiful. Thank you for having us here.
Thank you for being here. And I just felt like you could offer a different perspective because um I think a lot of your work is centered around, embodiment and owning our power, owning our not owning our bodies, but yes, owning our vessels, okay?
Mhm, mhm.
And and honoring ourselves, exploring, all of the many aspects of wellness. Okay, sexual wellness is wellness. Okay, I told you I'm into the holistic approach.
Yes.
Um, and I think also it's something that people often don't really associate with motherhood. But
Mhm,
we are looking for, we're still women, okay? We're still even after motherhood. And so I just felt like you could bring that holistic approach. So my
mhm.
part one question is, can moms be hot girls? And what does and so you can expand on like what a hot girl means by your definition and go from there.
Okay, so yes, short answer, yes. So long, I'll give some background about, thank you for reading the intro beautifully, and also the way that we found each other, you finding me, and for saying that about the influence, because something what I loved about even being invited in this space is because, yes, like while I do the work, I do a lot of, I talk about personally how certain activities such as twerking is my therapy. And so, so I'm celebrating a lot of like artists and the collaborations. And it was helpful for my journey in a lot of ways, sexual liberation journey, getting through my doctoral program. It was helpful just, knowing that what comes with that. But really, so personally, so background, Hot Girl Movement is inspired by Megan Thee Stallion's Hot Girl Summer 2019, but also Adrienne Marie Brown book, Pleasure Activism, Politics of Feeling Good, also came out 2019. And so what also was going on around that time, I was figuring out what I was going to name and how I was going to center my research for the next phase of with proposal, dissertation, and research. And already I did much of my work, Black women's sexuality, for years. I knew for a long time, like, this is why, this is what I want to do. It's like, if I'm going to do it, if I'm going to go up to, a certain level academically or professionally, this is something that I needed, growing up, thinking of being a young girl, growing up in the church, growing up as a Black girl, shaped with some, shapely Black girl. And how a lot of things were internalized for me. And what came with that was shame, around my body, sexuality, and judging myself, of having even a desire, to explore, or and saying yes and knowing the difference of, is this something I want to do, is this something I enjoy, and how can I speak up for myself. And so um and so how I define, so the hot girl movements, the pursuit of Black women's um Black sexual liberation. And I define sexual liberation with by bodily autonomy and sexual freedom or expression and pleasure. And so that bodily autonomy, it includes, and so my body, my choice, my pleasure is with the brand to add the pleasure piece, but, with around making decisions. And so, Dr. Shamika, your presentations is this spot on of why I do what I do, is because of first seeing that research when I first discovered, because my background is in Africana studies and Africana women's studies. And so first was interested in the psychological effects of slavery. And when I came across the information of even of the practice of enslaved Black women's bodies, without anesthesia, and because of the thought of, oh, don't experience pain, and even if it mattered, to even, and then being considered the father of gynecology. And it's just like the origins of gynecology is, rooted in that systemic racism that you mentioned, and the intersection of sexism. And so something that I realized in Africa, when we're studying the history, and I noticed in public health when we're studying the stats and and talking about prevention, I noticed a piece that I felt was missing, was that healing piece and the pleasure. And what do we do now? Like, we discussed the harm that was done, oppression, trauma, and it's important to be informed and be aware. Just like, well, what are we supposed to do with this? Because you spoke on how even the role that stress, can play, in your body, and how we hold it, and specifically for us in our womb, and how it can, have effects in other places. It's like, well, how are we going to release? How are we going to heal? And what about pleasure? And so that was something that I saw, included in the conversation, because my work started out in HIV/AIDS awareness, and a lot around prevention, working with college students with Clark Atlanta, AUC, shout out Spelman. And I would just, it's like, while we're here talking about the stats, and what you should do to reduce your risk, also, do you have an understanding of pleasure or what feels good to you? And mostly I was speaking to young Black women on the campuses, and some things that would come up was like, well, how do I know if I had an orgasm? Or why do women enjoy sex? Or why are women having sex? Are they enjoying it? And I was surprised. One, because I was working with, I think they might have been at that time younger millennials, or maybe the older of Z generation. So, we're thinking like the progression, and like the freedom and how expressive, but still that same, some of the same conversations or lack of that, conversations or information on how do I even just enjoy, these experiences, and how can I speak up when I do not? And this crosses over into whether it's in intimate activities, but also even making decisions around your body. So that bodily autonomy, when to say, and that consenting, that sexual expression piece, yes or no. And so a hot girl is one who is living unapologetically, whatever that looks like, whether it isn't based off of what you wear or how you wear it or what you do or how you do it. It's about doing what feels good for you, and that's that pleasure piece. Is subjective. How do you define pleasure? And Adrienne Marie Brown includes how we say can saying yes to things when it's an orgasmic yes, like we talk about in consent education. What's an enthusiastic yes? I want to know if it's consensual or not. But imagine if we only say yes to things that was orgasmic yes, And so something that I wanted to also with moms and mothers, because I'm surrounded um, by um, by mothers. I feel like a part of my role, purpose in my family, just in life, and my work is to be an assistant and supporting those in his work, and also a reminder, because from as much as I can understand of that process from um, pregnancy or even before, prior to pregnancy, then throughout the process, then birthing, and then there's a child. There's a baby here, there's a child, and then these roles that we have. Because even with my work in massage therapy, when I have Black women um, as clients, I would ask them like, "What do you do for fun or to relax?" And they're like, what's that? Like, it's like, or they'd be like, oh, I go to sleep or may sip wine. And I was like, well, what are you doing for you? Like, what are you doing to feel good or to release or to relax, like to bring yourself back? Because, and unfortunately, oftentimes, and women, I'll say in general, but especially I've noticed in Black women and even just myself and women around me, and I've seen this growing up around Black women, my mother, my aunts, my grandmothers, of feeling like just like when we speak of the with the history of gynecology of that thought that Black women and experience pain, but also, as Dr. Shamika mentioned, of being tired, of being a strong Black woman, the assumption that you got it, it's like, oh, it's okay. Like, and then we experience this from I've noticed from other women and sometimes our elders of like, well, I went through it. I didn't have this. So you got to go through it and use that. And something that I'm grateful about my mother that that she would say, and I see this with my sister, um, is a mom, and something that she says, and she said this to some other mothers, some of my friends and cousins, is that something that she feel while she's the grandmother, she realized that sometimes you just need help, and instead of trying to shame and say, no, it's your kids, you brought them in, you got to take care of them. It's like, no, because something she would mention is that um, what she would hate to happen, that, it got to a point where mentally you were unable and maybe cause harm to yourself or maybe even to your child. And so like, that was something that was just like, that's deep, and, her as a mom, and having her experiences, which there was traumatic experiences with losing my father while pregnant with my sister. So it was just like I just kind of came into the role of just assisting with my sister. I was the big cousin. I'm the auntie. I'm full time TT because it's like, no, it's like I got it. I'm like, don't have children, and so I feel like, you know. It's like I could take them for this day or this night or this weekend or what you need. Like, hey, what you did today? Like, what you come on now. It's like, I know you got things going on, but you don't have to not be your sexy self or I know it's a process after. with birthing and now mommying. But it's like, but you still that girl. You still can, dress up, feel good. And I'm here to, for the women, whether a mom or not, is a part of the hot girl movement, is just celebrating that, celebrating your sexuality, celebrating that woman is celebrating whatever that looks like for you. And so, yes, moms can be hot girls, and I feel like and that's something I just want. I would love to see more, and I support it. I support the most beautiful. I wish I had recorded it, but when I did a training recently for organization in Cleveland, and one of the staff, she was basically due any day now, and it was actually, I think, starting labor, but it was like and um and she was twerking because I incorporate twerking into my stress management training. And it was just so cute to see this her full with her with her belly and and just twerking and just being celebrated. We hyping her up, and it's just like, it's okay. Like, that's a part of even in womanism, Africana womanism, one of the components is the both and instead of us having to choose just because you're a mom or a wife or a in corporate, or have a certain role, an educator, because I've experienced that, as an educator, feeling like, oh, I got to be this professional, person, for them to take me seriously or to, hear me or to respect me or to prevent harm. It's like, no, I'm this and I'm this unapologetic or this sexual being or this, whatever it is that you are claiming and tapping into. And it's just about finding, you may have to adjust, of how you maybe were hot girling before children, or maybe depending on your generation or your age, maybe what you were doing maybe in your teens or 20s. It may adjust in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and with children it can adjust. It definitely can shift, I can imagine. But then it's a part of the journey, like it's an ongoing journey. And what I encourage, so that it's a acronym, HOT, and hot girl movement is healing over time. And so whatever it is that you're healing and working through, the trauma that you may have experienced, even just with mothering and that experience, which I appreciate also being shared in the keynote, in the presentation of that history, is so important, and so many people are not aware of that history, but want to talk about Black women and how we express ourselves and what we're doing. Like, it's so revolutionary, even of even this having these spaces and um tapping in and healing and in whatever way that it is. And so that is something that I encourage for all Black women, but especially the mamas.
Yes, I love that part about, twerking. Twerking is part of my self-care too. In the morning, okay, you got to get that energy moving. Um, and I love that. I love that you even encourage that with, like, you said the lady was 9 months and ready to and in labor and twerking. I love that.
Yes.
And also, it goes back to, being able to speak about our bodies and what feels good, what doesn't feel good, advocate for ourselves, and developing that early on. So I love that you're talking to, teens and college students, because I feel like that's when you first start to get a sense about yourself and you're like, this is my body. I have to take care of my body. um you might be, getting tempted to make different decisions, and you're like, is this what my body really wants and needs? And knowing that, because too often I've seen many cases where, a young woman, and you're so young, you barely even knew yourself, and now you're becoming a mom. And so many people are kind of like on that kind of like accelerated journey where, it doesn't, just because you're a mom doesn't mean that you're done learning yourself or there's not more that you can know. So thank you for uplifting that in your research. Let me see.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, uses of the erotic. I'm looking at the chat. Child, I'm hot girling right now. Dance song, reggae, say my yes, I like a wine, because I'm from the Caribbean, so I like
Yeah,
okay.
same family from Jamaica. Wine and it's included.
Yes. Okay. Yes, uses of the erotic. Yes, you know the essay that I'm talking about. So this is, yeah, why can't we experience pleasure in work? Pleasure in, just the day to day. And I feel like sometimes it's almost like so taboo to be like, oh, is that just for my own satisfaction and pleasure? Ooh, I don't know about that. It's like, no. Why are we? It's a conditioning, really. Um, Hold on. I think I had a two-parter for you. I think you probably just answered everything, though. Let me see.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, I think you did answer this. So how do you think reclaiming our bodies can help empower women on their motherhood journeys?
Motherhood journey.
Yeah, I'll just say, yeah, I touched on it of just one. I appreciate how the work that E mentioned about with finding that support in that community. And so something like I'm a part of others' communities, even as a not being a mother. That sometimes you may need a non-mom, non-mom friend or person to offer that support, and also to remind you, like, it's okay, or someone who may be in a different part of their journey, to balance out, to have that support of, because it's conversations I know and I support. I feel like it's spaces y'all should just be able to get into, and where there's nobody but moms, and y'all can just talk stuff about your kids, the people you got kids with, the system, all different things. Because I hear you about Dr. Shamika about being angry. Like, there's definitely a lot of anger that comes with doing this work, especially if you're included, if a part of your, if you are who you are doing this research on, and it's just like, and then we talk about it and hearing responses. But I would just say that community is important, who you have around you. If you have people around you making you feel bad about doing anything outside of of doing something directly for your children, it's like, it's so important for your children to, and just as a child, as a daughter, as a granddaughter, as a niece, as a cousin, that I've seen, as a sister of the women around me who are mothers. It's important for your children, to see a happy mom, to see you well, to see, and then if you're raising young, women, and girls, for them to see that, you can also, if this is something that they want to do, want to also be a mom, you don't have to choose. You don't have to choose a happy life or joy, or being having this role, which is such an important role, but trying to find balance in that. And I think that's an ongoing thing, because stuff, it's like, can happen, whether in the world, in your family, with your body, with your children. And so finding ways, activities, I see with yoga, with meditation, with twerking, music, whatever that is, art, finding ways to be, so you can still have your identity, and finding ways that it may adjust, it may evolve, is new, or when you add on that role of a mother, but finding ways where you can still tap in, or tap back in, or maybe tap in for the first time, because I think that is powerful AF, that you all are, you creating life, and people, like, there's people out here in the world because somebody carried them, and now they're out here, and so just that is powerful. Like, so it's like, if anyone should feel empowered and feel like they are that, that chick, that woman, that goddess, that queen is someone who has, who is responsible for someone being here, in this world. And for those who are the naysayers or the haters or the ones making you feel bad about it, just kind of silence them, whether in whatever way. I'm not telling you how to adjust, because sometimes, a lot of times, it'd be the people closest to you. It might be your own mom, but or elders in your family. But finding ways, whatever in your whatever role that is to have your voice and that encouragement and that support louder than those thoughts that are telling you that something's wrong if you are doing something that you enjoy, if you want to go out, or if you want to do something that's for you, that's purely just for you, for your pleasure, for your joy. And if you need somebody to tell you it's okay, like I say, it's okay. I approve of that message. I approve of that. It's to do something for you and just explore, continue the journey. And I always talk about healing being ghetto, because it's just, you never know which way it's going to go and how it's going to flow, and who you are today. You thought you was past something, and then it pop up, you trigger, or something else happens, and now they bring something up from 15 years ago.
Girl,
And
you
it's
is
like,
speaking, okay? I love this. Go ahead.
it's like, when I say so, like, I appreciate, Rwanda, for even mentioning me bringing in, like, it took a lot. Like, I grew up heavy in the church. I'm a PK, and I'm half Jamaican. I'm from Cleveland. It's so many of my identities that, like, her parts, being being a black woman, that had a lot of shame and guilt and negative messages around it. And so I had to fight for this, to continue to be this, and still be in my profession and in my academic, and like, isn't always cute. It's like, I try to stay cute, maybe on Instagram or the social media, because I have my moments when it's not as cute. And but I try to be as transparent as I'm comfortable within my, with that I feel comfortable with being. But I definitely do get into some nitty gritty in the book of sharing just some things of experiences, because it's interesting of being doing this work while on your own journey of healing. And so that's my thing, is find your way back to you, is ultimately what I would say to moms.
Thank you so much for that. Yes, that was a whole word. Okay. You said so much. Um, but another thing that I love is that, you don't have to necessarily be a mom or have given birth to have that mothering energy and to support other moms. I know I was an auntie long before I was a mom, and those were some valuable years, with my nieces and everything. And I know, since Rain is here, Rain has a piece in the magazine that is literally titled Mothering Other People's Children. And, just how she has been a caregiver across her lifetime. So there are many ways that this motherhood conversation goes. So thank you for uplifting that. The community aspect is so important. And it's a perfect segue, okay, because I know someone who helps so many moms in her community. Yes, Krystal and Camacho. I believe that I'm just equally excited and just love all of you so much. Um, Krystal Ann Camacho is an Afro-Latinx, Puerto Rican born and raised in New York City. Okay. She was raised by a single mother of six at walled houses in the Lower East Side. She knew she wanted to help others and is known for her role in working with families who live in public housing. In 2007, she was a finalist in her college annual speech contest. That's awesome. She holds a BA in social science and psychology from Touro College and is looking to pursue her master's in urban studies. She is an alumni of the Roots, Wounds, Words Penning My Pieces writing workshop, Krystal hopes to inspire BIWOC women. Okay, that's the women of color. Okay. To be informed about maternal and reproductive health. She is also involved in supporting women of color-owned businesses, and her passion is for creative writing, blogging, and singing. Welcome, Krystal.
Thank
And
you. Thank you.
hello.
Hi.
I would love for, even though I just read this bio, I would love for you to just tell us more about like the day-to-day of what you do and how you support moms.
Yeah, so in my previous work, I was working at the Public Housing Authority, and we created a department in which we would work with expecting families and provide them resources to the community. I have since not been there because I transitioned to a new role to a new agency, but I still, contribute to finding resources and providing that information to communities, whether it be also at my new employment, which I particularly just work with the staff now. I'm a wellness coordinator for staff, but I do also still keep in contact with a lot of the community-based organizations and families and things of that nature. I still, have clients that I used to work with that I stay in touch with, which is, very humbling. But yeah, I think resources, right? That's the main thing that I was speaking about is super important to have and to know how to navigate it. A lot of the families that I was working with were very overwhelmed, especially the single moms. So I also, prior to my work at working with public housing, I was also a case manager in shelter. So I was working with those families of low income communities and those families that were dealing with a lot of trauma. And learning to help them navigate was one of the best things because we're always talking about community. We're always talking about having somebody there for you, asking you if you were okay. And I learned in my line of work when I was dealing with the public is that's what you have to ask them. How are you? And I can't tell you the countless times somebody broke down crying um, in my office and, just needed a moment to themselves because they felt so overwhelmed.
Wow, I love that you bring that human aspect to it because, these are people's lives and it can be very overwhelming. Motherhood, like, becoming a new mom, um, can be very overwhelming, especially if you're thinking like, I don't have the resources or I don't know where to go to make sure that me and my baby are okay. And I did not know that you said you were a caseworker and that you worked with the homeless population. That is so important because it's like there are moms out there that are homeless. Like we often don't talk about these things. I've seen like, a lot of stories online. Now people are beginning to, you know, um, kind of share their experiences more, but there are a lot of moms that are homeless and or, you know, you don't have to be homeless to need resources too. That's another thing is like, no matter what level you're at, there's always going to be different ways that you can be poured into and helped because you deserve it. Okay. Yeah. So I know you work specifically with like the New York City area, but I know that you also have like tips for people living outside of New York. But why don't we like start in New York? Like say you're um a New Yorker mama to be, or you have some young kids. What are some resources that you can tap into?
Yeah, I think first of all, I'll start with a mom to be. That's really hard to navigate at times, especially knowing what OB you want to go to. Dr. Thomas talked about, people not high risk and also being kind of, just focus on a specific area or other, diseases or diagnoses that people have. So I think one is when you find out you're pregnant is to look for an OB that matches you and research them. So, for example, I'm currently pregnant, and it was very difficult for me to find somebody who aligned with my values and what I needed. I also have an autoimmune disease as well. So, being somebody that's high risk, it was like, who do I see? So I was able to, um, I found a doctor, right? And I went to that OB, and my experience was this doctor kind of dismissed and said, I'm not able to help you. You need a high risk doctor, right? Totally fine. But what happened is that particular person didn't give me any information further saying this is who you need to contact, right? So it was my due diligence to then go and then seek on the internet and find somebody, which I did. So I highly recommend if you know you have a condition, go on Google and search it and put it in parentheses so that it matches to the criteria you want to do. Parentheses help you actually making sure that when you put in that search engine, it directs you specifically to what it is in those quotation marks. And I was able to find a OB who specialized in who high risk pregnancies and fetal. So I was excited for that. So if that's something that somebody has and is looking for, you can do that. I do have to say it is going to take some time to research it. You are going to feel overwhelmed, especially because you're like, I'm pregnant. Going to have my OB scan and things of that nature. I also highly recommend reading and researching the different types of appointments you're going to have. A lot of doctors, and when you go, you'll speak to them, but they don't tell you the formalities of things like, why do I need an anatomy scan? If my placenta is anterior, what does that mean for me and my baby? And things of that nature. And, also having certain health issues if you are, have an autoimmune disease and things of that nature, or if you don't, right? If you're okay, also to learning what preeclampsia is, right? A lot of people don't know what that is or how to navigate. And those are some of the things and the resources that we provided to expecting families. And, also having that friend that's, not a mom, but is there, like, if they ask you, like, what do you need? That's something that they can help with.
Yeah.
So we have that aspect of resources. And then we have the aspect of also learning about your reproductive rights. So New York City Department of Health actually has a portion on their site where people can go to know about the reproductive health, knowing that, you're not supposed to be drug tested, right, in the hospital without your consent. And a lot of women, Black and brown women, are. And they don't know that they are. So that's something that's really important for people to also make sure that they're knowing what their rights are. And those are some of the information. So I can actually just share my screen with you, um, if possible. And I can show you, I never used this before. So let's see how this works. Just let me know if you can see anything. Do you guys see anything? Hello?
You had it. You had it. We
Oh,
saw.
I had it? Okay. I
Yeah.
wasn't sure. I was like, I didn't hear nobody say anything. So I was like, what's going on? Okay. So if you look at the Department of Health, they have, separate sexual reproductive justice, which is really great, and knowing your healthcare bill of rights. And they have the New York City standards of respectful care. They have it in different languages where people can go ahead and look at it. They also have maternal care information and services, breastfeeding doula, early childhood health, equity, maternal, infant safe, and newborn home visits initiative, which is a really great resource to have. So they have all of these that you can definitely look into and learn more about. It just makes sure that you take a kind of time. Also, too, with sexual and reproductive justice, they have birth justice defenders where they table events or they can do webinars and speak to expecting families, mothers, and basically they'll tell you how to advocate for yourself. We know that's the one most important thing is to make sure that you actually have an advocate for yourself and learning how to advocate, how to voice your opinion. If an OB is not aligning with like your values or respecting you, you don't have to stick with that OB throughout the whole duration of your pregnancy. You can go ahead and look for somebody else. And if you don't want to consent to something or you want to ask more questions, please do so. Don't be afraid to speak and advocate for yourself. We also have something called Healthy Start Brooklyn, but they also have different ones in Harlem and also the Bronx. Even though it may be in this particular borough or neighborhood, you can actually go ahead and excuse me, attend a lot of these free virtual sessions, right? So we have virtual childbirth education in Spanish, before and after birth and protecting your emotional health, foundations of the family information session. There's also fatherhood development. There's also Rose Reach Out, Stay Strong and Essential. There's also one called Remembering You, Remembering Us. And we talk about, people who have miscarried, and that's unfortunate. And, being in community with one another. So a lot of these free services, by the way, they're free. You can go ahead and attend and be in community and be amongst other people who are dealing with or the same things that you are. There's also pregnancy and prenatal support classes. There's doula, there's childhood education, there's family, again, foundations and things of that nature. So these are some of the things that people can look for in their neighborhood. If you have a state or local, health agency, I highly recommend looking into that to narrow your search down. And there's also community-based organizations as well that also have a lot of resources. This is something that I actually found on my journey of pregnancy is Just Birth Space, which is a really, really great. They have support group and classes. So they have herbal support for pregnancy and discuss different things of how to prepare your body and your house in a holistic way. They also have a birth trauma process, which is really great, and healing from birth trauma, which a lot of people do experience. They also have it in Spanish. They have pre yoga, make sure you're getting your body right, loosening up those hips and the pelvic area. They have pregnancy support group, prenatal infant feeding. I actually had a friend who reached out to me who needed support on prenatal infant feeding. She just gave birth. She had a lactation consultant, but that person didn't specifically have a really, concrete way for them to breastfeed. So if you notice that the person isn't aligning that is supposed to help you, there's always a way where you can find support and a resource to assist. And then, postpartum infant feeding, again, that they have just a ton of classes. I do want to mention too that the Department of Health also has something called early intervention services as well. So I think also too, learning the steps of the milestones that your child is supposed to have from birth all the way up to, I think, 5 years old is the milestones chart. Learning about the milestones chart and learning if, your child are meeting those needs, that you may need to inquire about having early intervention strategies to assist you. And a lot of the times you need to just make sure you look out for some signs. So there was, some instances where I had a couple of clients who I noticed their child, wasn't particularly had a sign of like not being at a particular milestone for their age and referred them out to services. And they were so happy about that. So just having somebody in community that is able to help also identify Also to speaking to just family members or things of that nature. They also have resources for fathers and caregivers. So we all know that it's not specific that, expecting mom, after they give birth, something may happen where the child may go to an aunt or things of that nature. So making sure that the mother, the grandmother, also has or aunt, uncle also have the resources as well. There's also tons of free resources that can be given to people if they need a car seat that you can look up online. And some of the agencies do give that out. There's also community baby showers that are around that if you look on maybe on Eventbrite or also Google that give out free diapers, free strollers, pack and plays, which is very important. So we know that safe sleep, having the baby on its back is super important because we know if they're on their stomach, they can vomit and, it won't go fully down. So make sure the baby sleeps on the back, knowing about safe sleep techniques. So there's tons of resources out there. We were, I think, able to incorporate some in Spoken Black Girls recent magazine. And thank you again, Ro, for just, having this space and community. I've been doing, I want to say about maybe 14, 12 years of just working on resources for various groups. So I'm just really good at trying to find things and making it like one specific place for people to look at. I do also want to mention that New York City also has something called Growing Up NYC. And I'll share my screen again. I took it off by accident, but it's loading right now. And some people may not know about this, but if you go to Growing Up NYC, I think it came off. So I'm gonna type it in. Okay. So this is an official website where you can go by the baby, the toddler, preschool, just the child's actual years, and you're able to click on it, and it tells you the different months that they're at. So we can choose somebody who's 4 months old, and basically it'll tell you about, brain building, what to expect in these moments, their milestones, and they break it down by social communication, health learning. And then these are different programs like Healthy Foods for Families. That's also something I also forgot to mention that just because you live in a particular neighborhood doesn't mean that you don't have access to healthy food, which is also really important. And you can get healthy food at a really low cost. So if you go to Grow NYC, they have different farmer markets where if you have an EBT card or if you just have a, regular cash and things of that nature, you can go ahead and obtain order food, like a grocery bag of like 2, I believe they give you, depending on the area that you're at. And you're able to access healthy farmers market from real farms foods. And they come with like recipes inside. And they always have these free events where you can obtain information from the farms and things of that nature and speak to people who have that. So, yeah, I think as some of the resources I can share.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And just letting us know all that is available. And so my plan for the resource list is to have a printout that goes inside every magazine with these resources on it. So when we ship them around the world, we will be shipping these resources as well. And thank you, Krystal, for, working on that and just everything you've been doing, like you said, over the past 14 years. And I feel like, you are my hero. You're one of my heroes. I have a lot of heroes, but you're definitely one of them because you're for the people, okay? You're in the community. You're like the first you know, one of the first faces or voices people hear when they're really seeking like, um, to improve, life for their families. So I appreciate that. And keep going with your wellness advocacy, okay? No one institution or role defines like who you are, and you are just this big, expansive, beautiful light who is helping like so many people. So keep going with that, sis.
Thank
Um,
you. Yeah, a lot of, and sorry, a lot of people in low income communities really, really need the assistance, right? Because they're navigating so much. They may be navigating living in a neighborhood that has high crime, right? And or they have a child that goes to school in not the right setting that they want them to, or they're dealing with different traumas. And it's just so much and it's just so hard. So what better way to show support and community to them because they need it. It's needed and the resources are there. It's just like it's hard to navigate and look at. And, I think that, be kind to one another, show compassion, listen is the most important thing. And people just want to be heard and assisted.
that's so true, that listening piece. And if there's anything we've heard throughout this, afternoon and all of these amazing presentations is just the power of community is what I think is going to, and what has, and what will continue to support and uplift, women, Black women, women of color, those of us who are, often pushed to the margins. When we come together to support each other, I think that is what makes the big difference. And then also trying to get the resources to meet that because it can't just, um, there's so much exhaustion, or at least what I've seen, like just thinking about current events and um just like the landscape of life today. I think a lot of people are tired, burnt out, exhausted, and we're looking for like how can we fill our cup, and then how can we, care for others in the community. So I love conversations like this where we can go over tangible steps um to make everyone's life a little bit better and a little bit easier and help the mamas out. So thank you so much for that, Krystal. Yes. So with that, I think honestly we had more questions, but I think we're going to conclude because we're at 3 o'clock. So I have a tendency to kind of like overestimate or underestimate, I guess. But I always know like everyone's gonna come and say amazing things, and it's gonna take the time that it takes, and we're all gonna love it and enjoy it. So I'm gonna end with us here, and I thank you again, all of the panelists. You all just shared so much vital information, and you know, thank you. Just thank you for being part of the Spoken Black Girl family. Woo! Thank you for supporting issue 5 motherhood. Okay. And yeah, stay tuned in. Many more chats to come. I love you all and have a blessed day. Okay.
Yes,
Bye.
thank you too.
Thank
It was so
you.
beautiful to meet all of you
Amazing.
amazing ladies and goddesses. Woo,
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm so full.
Same. I hope to stay connected. I would love definitely
Yes.
Dr. Sheik
Okay. I
and
feel some.
Krystal.
Yes, girl. Okay. Some
Bro.
co-authorships are coming along. I speak that.
I see it. I see
I
it
see
coming.
it.
Okay.
Yes. And when interested with the resources, I'm like, yes, I love
Okay.
it.
Girl, I
Let
got
us
your quote
go
10,
together.
everything. You still that girl. Like, y'all still that girl. Look,
And
my
that's
first
my
name
edited.
Shamika. Okay, so don't get it twisted. Like, I
Okay.
got
Because
you.
sometimes we forget. Thank you.
Love it.
Thank you,
Love
sir.
it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm gonna
this is
end this. You
amazing.
all have a beautiful Saturday afternoon. Thank you for being here
Okay.
again.
Thank
Thank
Peace out.
you. Yeah, have a good
Bye.
rest of the weekend.